We're going to spare the people the video version of this. Number one, because I'm awkwardly leaning because the way I have to have the setup in here, and it looks like I don't know, trying to either interrogate or seduce. It's hard to tell.
Yeah.
On Derek's side of things, honestly, it looks like you are FaceTiming me while getting a full body massage. Because you're laying on a pillow and you're topless. So
Yeah. It is true. I am definitely topless. For all female listeners.
Yeah. We got to keep them engaged somehow.
Yeah.
So if the Teague tease doesn't do it, I don't know what will.
Who is your daddy? I am your father.
You fathers will understand.
My father taught me many things.
I got an idea. How about you all sit there quietly while I make dad noises?
Well, welcome to episode 126 of Fathers of the Grind. My name's Tim Nestor, here with Topless Teague. What's up, Derek?
I gotta say, Tim, it sounds like you have a lisp. Do you have a lisp right now? Or is that just how the mic's picking you up?
I am thick of being treated like this.
It sounds like you have a lisp.
Really?
Yes.
Sister Susie, Sally.
It sounds like you have a lisp. So Derek.
Yeah. Oh boy. Anyway, well, that's episode 126 for you. 126th.
126.
126th. And yeah, we're gonna talk about Detroit a little bit. State of Decay 2 a little bit. For Detroit, we aren't going to spoil anything. I just want to kind of get our high-level thoughts on that game. For State of Decay,
we both finished it, so I think that should probably be our main topic. I'm sure we'll talk about it for a while.
Yeah, so we'll talk about Detroit Become Human. I also want to, maybe we'll start off with this. E3 is coming up soon. We're going to be talking a lot about E3 announcements starting next week and possibly even throughout the week a little bit. So you'll hear lots and lots of E3 talk then. But I do want us to maybe kick things off here with maybe one or two wish list items, things that you'd love to see at E3. Now, it doesn't count if it's something that you've seen as a rumor or seems like a leak. Just something that you would love to see, something that would make you go, "Yep, this E3 was pretty good," and here's one of the reasons. So we'll start off with that, and then I do want to talk a little bit about State of Decay 2, Xbox, the next Xbox major release since Sea of Thieves in terms of exclusivity, and our thoughts on that. I think both of us have played multiplayer. I don't know if you've played any single player. I've got some thoughts on the single player version of it as well.
I definitely played multiplayer because I played it with you. So I don't know why you think.
I don't remember if you were there or not. Sorry.
Yeah, I was definitely there, but thanks.
I've just got so many friends that sometimes I forget who I spend time with.
I can tell, Lispy Lisp.
I've got so many friends.
Really bad.
Are you serious? It sounds like I have a lisp.
Yes. You've never sounded like this before. So it's gonna be funny if the recording sounds normal, but I'm hearing you sound like you have a lisp. Like Mike Tyson talking into the mic.
No way. It doesn't sound that bad.
Yes.
You're lying.
This game sounds really good.
Yes, I got stung by 1,000 bees right on my tongue today. So that's what's happening. Hang on, let me try.
You sound better now. So I think you just changed your mic, the way. I don't know. It sounds better now.
All right, can you hear me from a different mic now?
Yeah.
Does it sound weird or sound all right?
Yeah, you can definitely tell you're farther away. It's more. You're not as close.
Hang on one second. Okay. What about now?
You're totally normal now.
Is there still a lisp happening?
I don't think so. I will tell you later, though.
All right, well, let's leave it because that could make for an interesting introduction. And boy, if there's one thing this show needs, it's an interesting introduction.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't look at the data on how people listen. I just assume they listen start to finish.
Yeah.
Without interruption. So,
I doubt it.
Yeah, they start the episode, listen to what we're going to talk about, and then erase it. Oh, well.
Yeah, pretty much. We support them.
Yeah. There are idiot friends who talk about video games.
Yeah, pretty much.
So that's what we're going to talk about. But before we do any of that, let's talk about anything else that you've been playing. have you played any other games?
I continued my second playthrough of Uncharted 4. I think I'm into chapter 18. I think there's 22 chapters to like complete the game, and then there's like a prologue or whatever, or maybe there's 23 chapters, and then there's like a prologue that's 24. So I'm pretty close to the end. My thoughts on it, because when I first played it last year and beat it, I wasn't that high on it. I know everybody else was like Uncharted 4's game of the year, and I think I put it at like my seventh favorite game in the top 10. It dropped pretty bad, like way lower than I thought, because I was real excited for that game. So I wanted to replay it. Now I started it when I originally got the PS4 Pro, so last year, like late last year, just to see how it looked. And then I played a little bit, and then I came back, played it till about the halfway point, and now I've started it again and gotten further. I still have the same complaints about this game. I feel like it's just too slow. They're too like, it's too try hard with the story, especially with the brother. The brother is shoehorned in, and he's just not a good character. Even though I like the voice actor, I do not like him as a character. And my other issue is just not as fun to play. Like, I still think the shooting's fine. Um, the set pieces are fine. What I don't like is all the areas where you have to just jump and climb, and I feel like they're always in Uncharted games, but I feel like this one's like they overdo it. Like
Yeah.
it seems more frequent. To add on to that, the game is definitely longer than the other three, so it feels like it drags, and that's again they added a lot of like and I know they did this on purpose because it's always like something that's praised, but they added a lot of like chapters that are not action sequences. They're more like, just for instance, when you're playing as them as boys, like little boys, it's not really action. It's a lot of walking and talking and all that stuff, and it's
A lot of
just
sneaking and a lot of that climbing you were
yeah,
talking about.
kind of
Yeah.
just not that fun. So my opinion on Uncharted 4 has not really changed. I was hoping I would like it a little more the second time, because sometimes I like games more the second time because sometimes I'm just a little too hard on them the first time. But nah, opinion hasn't changed. Still playing Rocket League. Played Detroit all the way through, but we'll talk about that later. I played one night of State of Decay 2. I played multiplayer. We'll talk about that later. And then I feel like there's another game. Oh, God of War. I jumped back into God of War. Um, I'm past the summit. Like, I think you said it on the show like 4 weeks ago. I'm past the part where you get ahead, like literally ahead.
Yep. Yep.
Uh, so I'm just past that part where he unlocks a new area, and I just started exploring that new area.
Okay.
Um, I I think I am enjoying the game a little bit more because maybe my life is getting a little bit better, so I'm getting a little more comfortable playing games. In fact, it's a shock that I beat Detroit. I know it's not like a game, but I actually got really into it that I was like, I just want to finish this. I feel like I could just finish this in 2 days, and I did. So I've definitely been playing more. Um, so I think I am starting to get a little more comfortable playing games. So I think God of War is going to be my next main game that I'd like to try to finish.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, if you guys didn't hear last week, we did a spoiler cast. We had Jake Roberson come in as a guest since Derek hasn't finished it yet, and Jake and I talked through God of War. And to be honest with you, I re-listened to it as I was previewing it for edit. It was mainly me talking. Poor Jake. He was a good sport. I was just super. There's two reasons. One, I was super into it and couldn't wait to talk about this game because I love this game. I really do.
You still have a lisp. This is amazing.
What? I have a lisp?
Still sound like a white Mike Tyson to me.
That's fine. I'll be your Mike Tyson.
All right. That's fine.
That's fine. It's fine, guys. But anyway, the other reason was we just had a little bit of upheaval. I don't know if upheaval is the right word. We just had some emotional stuff to deal with at the end of last week, and I had just gotten the news that things were there was a big change coming in our family. It was just kind of sad for me, and so I found that out. Literally, my wife called me right before we sat down to record, Jake and I. So I was in a little bit of disbelief, like, oh, this really sucks. So I was kind of in that mode, and then we jumped into recording. So I'll be totally transparent. I wasn't at the top of my game in terms of helping a conversation happen. I was very chatty. And I think a lot of that had to do with just being in a weird spot. So
Yeah.
I already talked to Jake about it, and he goes, well, I didn't really feel that way during the show, but he said he would re-listen to it and see. But I did promise him another spot, hopefully in the near future, to talk about something else where I'll actually give him a little bit of room to reply to some stuff. So anyway, it's one of the, sometimes you got to call yourself out for stuff. And I did not do a good job at having a conversation. I basically just treated it like a one-man show last week. So anyway, I still hope you guys enjoyed listening to some in-depth God of War spoiler talk, but hopefully next time around it'll be a little bit better. So anyway, I digress. So yeah, so you've been playing a few of those that you mentioned. I've been playing some more XCOM 2. My thoughts on XCOM 2 are, if you really like XCOM, what was it? Enemy Within or Enemy Unknown, whatever it was. I know there was an expansion.
Enemy Unknown, I think.
Whatever the original one was. To me, those of you who love this game are going to probably yell about this. I'm sorry. I just feel like it's a lot more of that first XCOM game. Yes, they add some things, some abilities, and some stuff you can do within the base. You can upgrade. If you haven't played XCOM before, the idea is it's a turn-based strategy game with lots of deep RPG type mechanics. You have very modern military type weapons and gear to use. You can recruit characters. When they die, there's permadeath. So you got to be really careful, or just be okay with some of your soldiers dying off. You can upgrade pretty much everything. And so in between battles, you're back at your main fort and you're clearing away debris from this alien spaceship you've taken over, and you're building new facilities, like new power cells, so you can build more facilities, or maybe you're researching new gear, or maybe you're engineering new items, training your soldiers in a different way. There's all sorts of stuff you can build. So there's some management stuff. There's lots of resource management, which stuck there from the first game, of course. And then there's lots of character management as well, because you level them up. There's a very limited selection of classes, and then a specialty within that class. So very fun. I highly recommend it. If any of that sounds appealing to you, it's all done very well. But it is not so, to me, it doesn't feel like that much of an improvement that it feels like a true sequel. Honestly, it feels like a really good expansion yet again. That's just my take on it. But I will say this, if you have the PS4, I believe, if I saw the news correctly come out this week, you're going to be able to get this for free on PS Plus next month. So hang on. And if that game sounds appealing to you, then the first Tuesday in June, go download it, give it a try, and see if you like it. I got it on sale for like $15 a couple months ago. So it's definitely worth that. It's certainly worth free. Worth $0 without a doubt. I thought it was still worth $15-20. So yeah, I do recommend it, but I'm not sure. It's just like if the first one, if I'm going to end up finishing it, I think I might kind of burn out on it after a little bit. So anyway, if it is difficult too, it's not easy. You can change the difficulty setting, but it is not easy either. So there you go. There's my take on XCOM 2. Oh, one last thing. It doesn't run well on the PS4. So I know you're about to get it for free, and maybe they'll patch some things. Maybe it's my old PS4. I don't know. But for a game that's not that taxing, it just doesn't run well for me.
I think it's just XCOM.
Yeah, could be. I don't know if it runs amazingly on PC or not, but it's kind of surprising, because again, it's not the most graphically mind-blowing game I've ever seen by any stretch. So whatever.
Definitely not.
So I'm playing some of that. I am on the verge of doing some New Game Plus action. I'm on the fence between God of War and The Witcher 3. I'm leaning towards Witcher 3. That's what most of you in the group are suggesting that I play. I know Derek has suggested that I jump back in with New Game Plus. So I'm leaning that way, because it is one of my favorite games ever. So we'll see.
And it's been 3 years.
It's been out for 3 years. Yeah.
So
that's crazy.
You take a break from God of War and enjoy The Witcher again.
Yeah, so The Witcher 3 I played in 2015. And then I played the 2 expansions both in 2016. So I haven't touched that game at all for 2 years.
Yeah.
2 years since I've touched that game. So anyway, those are some of the things I've been playing. A little bit more of Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. Not a lot, but a little bit. It's pretty fun. Hey, speaking of which, I do want to mention this. I did see the news that came out last night. So if you're listening to this, it was last week. The news about the new Pokemon game for Switch. Now, if I'm understanding correctly, and I am more than happy to be corrected on this, there were technically 3 separate things announced. You had Pokemon Quest, which is available now on Switch and iPhone, or on mobile. And from what I can tell, this is a very simple kind of action-y game that requires a whole lot of microtransactions to get too far into. That's my first take on it. It doesn't look like really anything that's your or my speed, to be honest with you. But there you go. It's available now. Everyone likes available now stuff for announcements. So that's Pokemon Quest. And this fall, in November, I think it's November 16th or something like that, they are releasing what's called Pokemon Let's Go Eevee and then Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu. So they're classic 2 versions where you probably start with one or the other, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you saw this video or any of the clips or not. It looks really good. It looks like a souped up version of what we've seen in the 3DS games. You've got a very bright and colorful world to explore, and you go through the grass to trigger battles. But then the battles look very much like Pokemon Go, as you can use the Joy-Con to throw. Or I don't know if you can use the touchscreen or not. I imagine they'll eventually add that. You can also use their new Pokeball controller that has a single analog stick, kind of a flat analog stick on it. You can also take that with you, by the way. That's one way to walk your Pokemon and earn extra stuff. But one of the things that to me seems the most intriguing about this is they are completely syncing it up with Pokemon Go. The mobile hit from, is that 2 summers ago now? Almost? I think it was 2 summers ago.
Yeah.
That, as far as I was concerned, was practically dead. It was a really interesting experiment that came and went, and now we're on to other things. Well, I think they're doing their best to revive what was a pretty big phenomenon for a little while there. And what they're allowing you to do is you can send items, I think, but definitely Pokemon back and forth between your Switch game and your mobile version of the game, which means, in theory, you could be out and about with your Pokemon Go app, catching Pokemon, bring it back home, sync it up with your Switch, and you have them in the game then to use in battle. That's what it looks like. I don't know if this is a full-fledged RPG version of Pokemon or not. I couldn't tell from the video. It very well could just be the collect-a-thon that Pokemon Go is, minus the in-depth battle system. So as I saw that, I got a little bit nervous, but I have since read, and I hope this is true, so that was number 2, was these Go versions coming out this fall. I've since read that in the fall, or the second half of 2019, is when they're going to release their next core games for the Switch. So the true Pokemon RPGs are coming next at the end of 2019. So it sounded to me like 3 big announcements. Here's your little cheap mobile game right now. There's a Switch game coming out that syncs up with Pokemon Go this fall, and then your full-on Pokemon RPG is next year. So I think that's fairly accurate. I could be wrong. Feel free to correct me on that, but I know that's not really Derek's thing, so I'll let us move past it now. But
I hate it.
I got to give Nintendo credit for this. I think it's a very smart business move. This is going to sell a ton of consoles. You've got a Pokemon game now on your console, and it's going to reinvigorate interest in Pokemon Go. It will for my family, because my kids saw the trailer for it, and they are going nuts about it. Like, they are already excited to get back out there and catch stuff in Pokemon Go and then play it on the Switch. So I think they're going to, business-wise, money-making-wise, I think this is really smart. But anyway, that's the only big news that Oh, no, it's not. Bethesda. Fallout 76. I don't know anything about it.
I don't know anything either.
That's all I've seen is
I heard
hashtag.
it's like an online game.
I'm not sure. I know they're going to talk more on June 10th. So that's.
I'm wondering if this is going to be a Fallout MMO, like they have Elder Scrolls MMO.
Oh.
Because the rumor is it's like you're in the Vault 76 and you're there with like 500 different online people. That was what I read. I didn't read a lot, but.
Okay.
I was like, not interested.
When I first saw that they put up the countdown, please stand by, and they were going to announce something, I just assumed it was their kind of halfway game, like New Vegas. I'm not saying New Vegas was half of a game, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't an official numbered entry. So I assumed they were going to announce Fallout New York, or whatever they were going to call it. But anyway, Fallout 76, I don't know a lot about it, other than the fact they've said they're going to share a lot more at their E3 conference on, I think it's Sunday, June 10th. Is that Sunday? I think so. So there you go. Those are the 2 recent announcements that jumped to mind for me. And yeah, I think that's good. So speaking of E3, let's go ahead and name one or two things that you and I would love to see. Let's just call these our wish list items for E3 this year. Could be for any conference, any company, whether it's a hardware or software announcement, doesn't matter. So let's see if we can each give two. So what would be one thing that comes to mind for you that would make an awesome E3?
I would like to see for Nintendo. I'd like to see a sequel to Breath of the Wild. Now, I understand it wouldn't be coming out anytime soon, but I would like for them to like tease it. Like, hey, Breath of the Wild was super successful. Here we're working on a sequel or whatever they're going to call it. I would like to see that from Nintendo. And then for Xbox, I know it sounds stupid, but I would like to see a new IP, and I'm really interested in seeing Halo 6. I want to see what they're doing with. I'm a big fan of Halo 5, mainly because I love the gameplay, but I actually like the ending of the game, which I won't spoil. But I'm one of the few. A lot of people absolutely hated it, including like Jesse White. I want to see what they're going to do with Halo 6 to, I would say, right the ship. Even though me personally, I'm fine with it. A lot of people hated the game overall in every aspect when it comes to story. So I'd like to see. I don't think Microsoft has failed that hard at a Halo game as far as it being controversial in the way it has been. Maybe Halo 2 because of their ending, but Halo 2 was still really, really successful. Halo 5 was successful, but not at the level we're used to seeing.
Yeah.
But and I'll go ahead and do one for PlayStation. I'd like to get a Last of Us 2 like release date.
Hmm.
Nothing.
Like,
I don't even need to ask for a new IP. We already know we're gonna get it, and they've already overwhelmed me with so many new games. I don't even need them to do new IP.
and so by date, just to be clear, are you saying you'd be okay with them saying uh, spring 2019? Because it's better than nothing. Right now we've got nothing. So you're saying, do you want that first step, or would you like to see them say, February 10th, 2019?
I
Or
think
something like that?
what they'll do at E3 is I think we're gonna actually see gameplay. Like I know we've seen movies or trailers. I think they're gonna actually do like a presentation where there's somebody's playing it, and then I would like at the very end for them to be like coming spring 2019 or something like
Yeah,
that.
give us a range to look
I mean,
forward to.
obviously, fantasy world, I'd love it to be fall 2018, but it's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
So, oh,
Yeah.
I really should say what I really, really want, and that's I want Bloodborne 2. I'm tired of waiting.
That's a good list of three. So you want a Breath of the Wild sequel, you want a full-on Bloodborne sequel, and you want a release date for Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty good list. I think a Bloodborne sequel would be smart. I haven't followed From Software very closely, but for some reason I've got a memory of them talking about how they're taking a break from a Souls type of game to do something different. Did I hear that? Is that something
Yeah.
that rings true to you at all? I feel like that was said at some point.
Yeah, they were basically done with Dark Souls. But
But Bloodborne could still be.
isn't Bloodborne's like Studio Japan though, right?
Oh,
I thought
that shows a lack of knowledge on my part. I assumed it was the
I
same
would have to
folks.
look, but I think it's like a combination of From Software and Studio Japan or something like that. And so again, I think I was talking to Jesse White about it because him and I we beat Bloodborne 2 for him. I'm at the very end. Like all I have to do is beat the last boss, but I'm actually not gonna do it. It would be I think my fourth time beating the game, but I'm not doing it because if anybody else wants to play the game, if you beat the last boss, it automatically boots you into a new game. So I would go
Yeah.
into New Game Plus 4, and I don't want to do that. I'd rather leave it open where I can actually go to any boss. But that's beside the point. We were playing it, and we started talking about that, and I was like, he's like, "Do you think Bloodborne 2 is gonna, come soon or whatever? Or you think they're ever gonna release it?" I was like, "That is a moneymaker. It's definitely coming. I just don't know how Sony's gonna do it, but they're gonna pull it off. Like they're gonna they're gonna have a Bloodborne 2.
Yeah.
I think it needs to be talked about this E3 because we're now at 3 years since that game came out. So I think that's plenty of time to start talking about,
And then it's a 2019 game, probably.
yeah,
Yeah.
Bloodborne 2.
Yeah, no, I could totally see that. I think I could see them opening with Last of Us Part 2 gameplay, or at least more details of some kind. a new trailer that shows gameplay at least, even if it's not someone playing it. Here's your release window, and then maybe closing their conference out with one more thing, Bloodborne 2 reveal or something. I can see that.
I did, and I know I'm veering off because we wanted one or two, but since I did one per
Yeah, you can do 4. That's fine. Go ahead, go for it.
studio, I will say this just came to me. What I'd like if I had to say like third party, I want a new BioShock. I think they've been talking about or rumoring it. I want a new BioShock. So if I'm gonna bring up The Last of Us, I'm gonna bring up BioShock. Those are two of my favorite franchises or games, whatever you want to say. And I definitely want a new BioShock.
Okay. All right. Well, I think I've got basically one per major company. So I'd like to say one of my top Xbox exclusive franchises has always been Fable. I love the Fable series, at least the main 3. So for me, number 1 is announce a full-on, full-scale action RPG, Fable 4. And again,
excited about that.
All it would need to say is 2019, or even if it said coming soon. This is one that it would just be great to see that it's happening. So show me that Fable 4 is in the works. That would be huge. That'd be a huge one for me. I would love that. It would probably spur me on to go back and want to replay some of 1, 2, and 3, to be honest with you. Because I really liked the whole vibe of that series. It was so fun. That's what I would like for them. For Nintendo, there's a whole bunch of IP I'd like to see them address. I'd love it, of course. The Breath of the Wild sequel sounds good. Even a Mario Odyssey sequel, I loved that game. That would be cool. But what I'd really like to see, and I'm not usually one to list compilations or re-releases as a wish list item, but this is a franchise that I feel like I haven't seen in a long time, and I really want the Nintendo Switch to get a Splinter Cell compilation where they put all the previous Splinter Cell games right there ready to go. Give it some HD treatment. It doesn't have to be crazy, super high res, but give us some HD treatment so I can play Splinter Cell all the way through Blacklist on my Switch. I would just die if they and I'll pay full price for that. I'll pay $60 for all, what is that, 5 or 6 games. That would be absolutely amazing. Especially if they give me Pandora Tomorrow, Chaos Theory, and Blacklist, and even Conviction. I like that one a lot too. So I love that series. And along those same lines, I want to see them announce a brand new PS4, Xbox One Splinter Cell game as well. So it's kind of a combo one. So I want more Splinter Cell from Ubisoft. I want compilation stuff on the Switch, and I want something brand new on my big TV, PS4, Xbox One. So there's 2 things. Your thought on Bloodborne 2 is a really interesting one, but I think for Sony, I'm kind of back and forth on this one. I would love to see somehow, and I don't know how this would happen, but I'd love to see Sony somehow surprise with a Metal Gear Solid announcement of some kind. So whether it's full-on Metal Gear Solid 6 or what, because I think Konami kind of fell on their face with Survive. So if they were to let us know that they are teaming up with Konami, or somehow they've got the rights to create it even, or it's published by Konami, I don't know. But I would love for them to somehow get the rights to make.
I understand this is like a fantasy list. I just don't think Konami is the type to, and I'm not an F Konami guy. I just don't think they're the type that would even share that IP. Like they wouldn't.
I don't think so either.
I think they would always want to be in control of it, and I think Survive was a game that they never thought was going to be huge. They were just willing to, like, people are just saying it's a cash cow. I think that's what they were going for. Like, hey, it's Metal Gear, but it's really not. Like, I was a person that was actually excited about it until I did more research and played the demo, and I was like, this is dumb. Like, this is just horde mode. I didn't want that. What I wanted was an online Metal Gear Solid 5 experience where I was playing co-op with friends and, like, taking down missions like you would in Metal Gear Solid 5. I would absolutely love that. I would have played that with somebody else. Like, I would have been, let's stealth this entire mission co-op. They screwed the pooch on that. Like, that was just so stupid. When I played it, I was like, this is dumb. So point is I don't think Konami will ever release that to anybody.
I don't think so either. It would just be really cool if somehow we saw that another proper Metal Gear, even without Kojima. I know that's sacrilege to a lot of people, but I would love to see that series continue.
What, you haven't played Metal Gear Solid 4, right?
That's the one I've missed. Yeah.
So what you should be asking for is for them just high def release it on.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that. Actually, I would love that, especially if it were, and it's coming out this month or next month. You know, it's a summer
2022.
release, and then also we're working on Metal Gear Solid 6 or something
Yeah.
crazy. I mean, that would be crazy, but that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I had one other one that I'm now blanking out on, because there's a whole bunch of stuff that would be so fun for them to send off to the Switch. It really would. I'm blanking out on my last one that I wanted from Sony, but if I think about it, I'll bring it up later in
Okay.
the show. But anyway, here's the bottom line for this: is E3 is a pretty exciting time for gamers. It can be really frustrating for us at times. You
Mhm.
know, we've had those moments that we are just rolling our eyes, like that was your conference, that's what you were talking about. And there's other times when we're just mind blown and can't stop talking about it and are hyped through the roof. So E3 is a pretty exciting time.
I think
I,
E3 is always good. I think fanboys destroy
I
it.
think you're
Like
right.
it's always a competition. Like like last year, I watched all the conferences and I thought all of them were good.
Yeah.
I actually ended up saying I think they were all pretty much equal. I'm talking about the main big ones.
Right.
And, the quality of the shows overall, objectively, are usually really good.
Yeah.
It's just the fanboys that will be like, they'll nitpick it and they'll make little cheap shots. And it's not just jokes, it's to piss off the other people. So that's when E3 gets annoying. Like, it's pretty good in our group. Fathers of Grind's not too bad. Yes, we got
We're typically hyped for all things.
yeah, I mean, it's still Sony Pony, but it's usually fun. Like nobody's fighting.
Yeah.
You go into the big groups, you get a lot of fighting.
And even the
Like the
Sony ponies, for the most part, a lot of them even own Xboxes. They're like, hey, I'll play Sea of Thieves.
yeah,
Hey, I'll play whatever.
yeah, I've noticed that our group has definitely mellowed out. Even some of the people that I would have in the past called Sony ponies are not really that bad anymore. And I think it's because we've all gotten pretty. We're real familiar with each other, real close, and so we know each other's humor. You know, they know. Like I know if Moose takes a shot at Xbox, like I don't freak out because I'm like, that's Moose. That's what Moose does.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and we know moose are typically pretty grumpy, aggressive creatures. So
Totally.
it's just the way they were made.
That's why most sports teams pick mooses for their mascots because they're so aggressive.
So one thing I would love to see is for all three companies to have a good balance of here's updates on stuff you're waiting for, and here's some new stuff for 2019, 2020. Like, and I realize that's probably their ultimate goal from a very high level anyway. You know, in their board meetings, they probably want that. They want give the consumers some answers now, give them some answers for the short term, and then give them something to look forward to for the long term. And I don't think they always strike that balance. A good example would be I thought Nintendo struck that balance last year. And they haven't always. They've been one of the worst. I bet you if we gave them all scores throughout the years, Nintendo's not always one of the strongest. I think their average is probably lower than both of the other two. But last year, I think they nailed it. They did a great job of here's what's coming this summer, and then surprise stuff like Mario plus Rabbids. And by the way, Mario Odyssey's coming out this fall, and Xenoblade's coming out in December. And they were just all these things are happening. And oh, by the way, Metroid Prime 4 is in development, and they hadn't even talked about stuff like Smash Brothers yet. So
yeah, I'd like to see Metro Prime.
that would be crazy. You know what?
I don't think
I
we'll
should
get
put that on my wish
gameplay.
list instead of the Metal Gear one.
Yeah,
I want to
don't think
remove the
you'll
Metal
get
Gear one.
gameplay,
I
but-
want to see Metroid Prime 4 gameplay, which is definitely a pie in the sky wish. I would love that.
I think it would be cool if they just did like a. I just don't see game like something to tease you even more. Like,
Yeah,
hey,
that'd be
it
awesome.
really is happening.
Yep, that would be really cool. And I want Sony to kind of step out from what they did last year, which was, hey, in 2016, I guess it was, we absolutely destroyed. We had every game announcement you could possibly ever want. And in 2017, it felt a little more lackluster because most of what they addressed
version of 2016.
Yeah, it felt like here's updates on everything we talked about last year. So all that to say, and some of the stuff like Days Gone, it's not even out yet, and we've seen that for a few E3s in a row. So it's time for Sony, I think, to kind of step up their game again this year. So I'm looking forward to what they have. I actually assume they're going to have some cool stuff this year.
I think they're going to drop the Bloodborne 2, and I think they're going to have some surprises.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So E3 is coming up next week. Please be excited. All right, let's talk real quickly about our thoughts on State of Decay 2 so far. Derek and I did have a chance to play multiplayer with a few other guys on. Oh, I guess
Tuesday.
that was it
It was
Tuesday.
launch day. It was the launch day. 20.
Yeah.
Well, I
Okay.
mean, the regular launch day. They did have like a deluxe edition launch day, which was on like the 18th.
Yeah. I don't have that kind of money. So we played last week. That one night, we only have done multiplayer once, but I've actually played probably a good 5 or 6 hours of single player since then. I've been enjoying it a little bit, so I'll talk about that. But first, I want to hear your thoughts. State of Decay 2, first impressions of your whatever hour and a half of multiplayer.
I mean, overall, I enjoyed it. I saw some of the complaints that you guys had during our session. Um, it wasn't as bad. Like, I don't remember seeing screen tearing. But I was also playing on a little 4K monitor, so I don't know if maybe that made a little bit of a difference. Um, I did have lag. I did have some bugs. I thought some stuff was stupid, like when my character ran out of stamina, I couldn't. We were playing in Jesse White's game, and I couldn't rest. So I had to figure out how to switch characters completely, and I don't even know what my other character was doing while I did that. I don't know if they were just standing in the same spot. Like it didn't like explain itself, and I just thought it was stupid that I went to a bed and it didn't give me the option to sleep and then let me switch characters.
I
So
will say this because I learned this from playing single player. When you swap out characters, it automatically replenishes your stamina that's been permanently lost. It
mhm.
replenishes that, and then it'll give you a little notification. It's pretty small, but it'll pop up and say so and so is now completely rested.
Okay.
So that is the way to do it. It's just certainly not explained well. That's for
Okay.
sure. Yeah.
But overall, I thought it was fun, but not fun enough to get me to go back. But keep in mind, right now, the way my PS4 is set up and the way my Xbox One X is set up, it's easier for me to play the PS4 than the Xbox One X because I've got the Xbox One X set up mainly for my son, and that's the other thing I've been playing. Been playing FIFA 18 with him.
And
I've
what
been,
your PS4 is set up like in front of the toilet in the bathroom? If you just,
oh yeah, yeah, you know.
I'm just wondering what you mean by easier.
Well, it's set up in like the living room on the
Oh,
huge 4K
got it.
screen, so
Got
I'm
it.
out there more than I am in the kid's bedroom.
Yeah.
And that's set up on like a little monitor in a corner. It's not comfortable, so I just don't go in there a lot and game on it right now. But overall, I thought it was good. I think I'm kind of in the same feelings as Kyle Neely. I saw him post about it, and he's like pretty much that he likes this game, but he's just not gonna play it until I'm not really in a rush to play it unless I'm gonna play co-op. Like I know Jesse White and them bought it, so if he wants to play, I'll play with him. Nate Bacon, but it's not something I'm like solo. I'm gonna play. Like if I'm gonna play solo games, I'm gonna play God of War. I'm gonna keep playing Rocket League. I've been playing Destiny 2. Like I'll play stuff that's on my PS4 right now. I'm not really concerned with State of Decay 2. So I wouldn't say it moved me too much because I was pretty excited about this game. It just felt like I was playing State of Decay 1,
Yes, it did.
but with co-op. But
Yep.
again, the co-op has not been implemented very, very well.
Yep. No, I think overall it's the same thing I said about XCOM 2. Honestly, I kind of had similar thoughts about Dishonored 2, and that doesn't mean I dislike those games, but they're not necessarily these major step forwards from what you saw in the previous entries. They're good, and there's some improvements. Like for example, in Dishonored 2, I thought the story, for example, was way better. It was more
Yeah,
intriguing.
yeah, it was definitely.
But as far as the game itself, the core game was pretty much the same thing with some tweaks here and there. Same with XCOM 2. By the way, one of the biggest weaknesses of the XCOM series is the story. Super cheesy. Every once in a while, you get this shadowed figure who seems to be undercover in the higher ups in the government. It sounds very much like the voice of the guy who does Optimus Prime from the Transformers cartoon and movies, and he's giving you this real patriotic speech about how you're doing the best you could or whatever. So I don't know. I feel like with State of Decay 2, it reminds me a lot of my time with State of Decay 1, just in terms of the visuals, the overall jankiness, and I say that with love. Okay, it's very janky though, and then just the overall lack of polish. I feel like I'm playing the first one again, but that game really endeared itself to me in that it was a true okay, go out and survive in the zombie apocalypse type of game. It was truly open world. Go wherever you want. If your character dies, they're gone for good. You have to seriously manage your resources and set up ways for you to automatically replenish those through your garden, for example, with food and medicine and things like that. So at first it feels like, wow, this is just going to be a tedious back and forth of going to gather supplies. But really what it is, that's what it is at first. But as I'm playing more and more single player, I'm realizing pretty much every resource you need, there's a way to set up a more automated way to gather this resource. So they give you the tools. It's just a matter of going out and doing it. And as you clear infestations, and as you heal your people that are getting sick, and as you answer radio calls for help, you start getting more rewards, and their skills start to grow. And as your characters die, and you feel that sting of, well, there they go, I guess I have to build up somebody else. I'm having the same fun I had with the first one.
Yeah.
And even though the overall visuals are a step up, they're still not amazing. So
Yeah, I think we should mention, and I'm sure most of our listeners know, this is a $30 game. So
it
it's
is.
a full-fledged AAA $60 game.
Yep.
But they definitely didn't like step it up for the Xbox One X. You know, it was just kind of like the 360 version, the first game, with like a slight like high def remaster touch.
Yeah, so it's a little bit crisper. You got to acknowledge that. So, and some of the details in certain things are really good, and a lot of the details in certain textures are really bad. That being said, from what I've seen so far, the draw distance, and I'll have to go back and look at this again, I feel like it's really good. You can actually see zombies from a long way away. And I picked the valley to start with, and so there's a few areas where you can really see a long distance. And some stuff still pops up as you get closer, like every video game, but it does a much better job this time of allowing you to see across the distance as you plan out your approach to stuff. So I can see them using more horsepower for that type of thing, and rendering just more buildings and more zombies and all that kind of stuff. So overall,
dead vibe to it, which I like.
yes, yeah. Overall, it's very fun. If you like the idea of just go out in this open world and choose your own path to survive in this apocalypse, I highly recommend it. Plus, it's only $30. And if you have friends to play with, there is the caveat that yes, it's more fun to play with friends, but no, it does not work great with multiplayer at the moment. They might have fixed it over the last week in some ways, but as far as I can tell, the multiplayer still doesn't run super smoothly. So single player is still fun for now. And by the way, everything I did in multiplayer with the characters and the items they had in their gear that they had when we finished playing online together, it all carried over to my game. So it was all right there. So State of Decay 2, pretty fun. I recommend getting it if you are into post-apocalyptic zombie survival type stuff. Go and get it. All right, and lastly, let's talk a little bit about Detroit Become Human, the latest game from Quantic Dream. It's the biggest PS4 exclusive that came out recently. Feels like I'm saying that every month there's a massive PS4 exclusive. And this month it was Detroit Become Human. So let's talk a little bit about this, about what kind of game is it, and then some of our overall takes on it without spoiling too much of the major stuff that we maybe experience. So, how would you describe what kind of game this is, Derek, for anyone who doesn't know much about Quantic Dream games?
It's your typical David Cage experience, which is it's not really heavy on gameplay. It's more of a story-driven narrative built off of choices you make and consequences to those choices. Without going into too much detail right now.
And what other games did he make, real quick, for anyone who's not sure?
Heavy Rain, which I absolutely loved, but that was mainly because I loved the mystery behind it. Like, you're basically trying to solve a murder, or not a murder, but you're trying to capture a murderer who actually kidnapped a kid, and you're trying to find out if the kid's alive or not. And there was huge consequences in the game. Like, there's the cool thing about what he does is the characters that you use in his games can die. So if you make bad choices or you don't do an action scene right, you can die. So he puts a lot of pressure on you when you play his games to play him correctly. So he did Heavy Rain. What was the other one with the girl?
Beyond Two Souls?
Yeah, I was gonna say Beyond. So Beyond Two Souls. He also did Indigo Prophecy. I
Yeah,
believe.
that's right. Was that his first one?
I think so.
Okay, yeah, that sounds right.
That's the one I've started. That's another one that's like a mystery, and I started it and I never finished it. But I would actually be interested in going through that one because I actually heard it was really good, story wise. But
So this
um,
falls in that same line of
oh yeah,
very
this game,
story heavy, and
yeah,
although there's plenty of quote unquote gameplay moments, it's really not hit a button to swing and building up your character stats. It's nothing like that at all.
no, I mean you can technically fail in his games, but like I said, it's really an interactive movie,
Yep.
with very limited user user what is it called?
Like the interface?
Yeah, user interface. Like
Yeah.
we don't have to do that much. Like if I want my character to run and jump onto a wall, run the wall, and then jump off to another cliff, I'm not going to actually do that. All I'm going to do is tell the game to do it, and then the game does it. So it's
Yeah.
different than an action game.
I think that scenario you described of kind of jumping off a wall and then grabbing onto a ledge, they do a good job in that. There's several times when the whole game kind of pauses, it kind of freezes in place, and then you have basically just using the camera to look around, you can identify different paths to take. Do I
Yeah.
run and jump and pull myself up over here? Do I bounce off the wall on that side, or do I just go this way, down this tunnel instead? And then all these different options open up to you, and it doesn't really. Those are not really moments where you can fail because you get to kind of play out what it would look like, and if it's going to be too long of a jump or if you're going to mistime it, it'll tell you. You have to rewind and find a new path. But it's still fun. It's got a very light puzzle element to it. Some of the other elements of the game, I think, have some puzzles, but really what it comes down to is what to say and when, and what decisions to make. And it doesn't give you a lot of time. Most of the major decisions, you've got a little decreasing time bar.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe it's 5 seconds long. Being generous, maybe.
yeah.
And you have a quick decision to make. Do you talk? Do you shoot? Do you approach? Do you defend? Do you hide? All the. Do you lie? Do you tell the truth? All these options come before you in these different scenarios. So the overall setting of it, though, is kind of in the near future. It's 2038, which actually isn't that far away. It's only 20 years from now. And the idea is that AI has advanced to the point where we now have very human looking and feeling and for the most part acting androids are now a key part of our society, in the US at least. And one of the major places they're manufactured is Detroit. That's where the headquarters of CyberLife, which makes these androids, is located. And you start to follow the path or the story of three different androids. One is the most advanced new unit, and it is working for law enforcement to solve murders and whatever. The whole idea is that
By the way, he was my favorite character. I enjoyed
Connor was.
Yeah, I liked him as a character, but I also liked the fact that you were doing detective work. I feel like
That was so fun.
That's what works best in David Cage games. That's why I like Heavy Rain, is you're doing a lot of detective work. So
Yeah. Well, and that detective work. I mean, talk about that a little bit. What was that those detective elements? What were those like in this game?
your basic, it's almost like I felt like it was like playing Batman, the Arkham games, where you're trying to piece together what happened in this. I should say at least Arkham Origins. In Arkham Origins, I remember several areas where you would go into a room and then you would review the evidence, and then the evidence would then create a scenario that only Batman could see. With
Well,
like
and didn't Telltale's Batman do that too? I think it
yeah,
did.
yeah, maybe. I'm
Yeah.
I'm thinking of it's probably all the Batmans do this, to be honest with you. But that's the same thing this
Yeah.
detective can do. This AI, he can look at the evidence and then he can start to put it together like an actual recording of what he thinks happened based off the evidence. So you can actually if you don't review all the evidence, you can miss a huge portion, and then you can end up being wrong in what you tell the detectives and stuff like that. I mean, they make it pretty easy to find everything.
They do, because you
Um,
have that general scan, and you can miss
yeah,
stuff if you're not careful. But yes, there's a scanning
yeah, but they
option
make
there.
it pretty easy to look for everything, um, and then you just piece it together, and then you basically report it, and then you try to solve the mystery for maybe that crime scene, which
Yeah,
had an overarching mystery behind it as well for every crime.
exactly. Yeah, his design was not only to help crime scene investigators, but really specifically to track down what they call deviants. And this is when an android has some sort of bug in the system where it is no longer obeying commands. It is kind of thinking, and apparently it seems to be feeling on its own, and it's
Mm.
kind of gone rogue. And these are deviants. And so it's pretty, yes, it is pretty standard sci-fi trope stuff when it comes to we've got AI, now they're very human-like, uh-oh, now they're kind of off on their own, and we might have a conflict on our hands. That's the general gist of the game, but each scenario is set up and plays out very differently based on the decisions that you make. And each scenario is just very different. One is more of a housemaid, one is like we just said, a crime scene investigator, and then one is kind of a personal assistant, caretaker kind of a guy, and but who is very very much loved like a son. And then when he kind of sets out on his own, he uses the inspiration from the human he was taking care of to make a lot of his decisions. So each one is set up very differently, and I really like the way that each of them get a chance to play out. And of course, the game kicks off with you controlling Connor. He's the one who's the crime scene investigating android. And just like Derek described, I loved how when you go into the apartment where this crime is actually underway, it encourages you to walk around and investigate before you go out and have the confrontation. And so you can learn as much as possible. And that actually gives you additional options when you go out for that confrontation. And this happens throughout the game. The more you investigate the environment and analyze things and see what's happening, the more options, even full-on story options you might have at your disposal. It could be something as simple as, in a couple scenes, choosing to open a window might give you an out later in a way you didn't realize. I played one scenario where it was probably a dumb idea, but I opened a cage for this gigantic, terrifying animal, and that actually really paid dividends later in that sequence. So things like that I think they do a brilliant job of allowing you to interact with the environment however you want to, for the most part. And then, of course, it's all very guided, but it feels like I have a lot of control. And that's what I like about this game. So if you've played any Telltale games, I know Derek and I have talked about this before. We liked, Wolf Among Us or Tales from the Borderlands. It's like that and we have to acknowledge the visuals, with some of the best graphics I think I've ever seen. I think it's a gorgeous game.
Yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous. Um, it there were several times where I was like playing it and I felt like I was uh, watching a movie.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, there was like, especially like a lot of the characters you're gonna recognize some of the main characters as actors you've seen in shows and movies before, and you're like, holy crap, that looks exactly like them,
Yep.
sounds like them, moves like them, acts like them. So he really captured each character really well. And it does have like, it's a video game, but you could it's definitely one of the clearest and cleanest looking video games that it
It's
looks
so cinematic. It's
real
very
and
cinematic.
cinematic. The only issue I would say where you can go, okay, this is a video game, is when you're actually playing it and moving the characters. They don't move very lifelike sometimes. Like there's just some jankiness to them in the movement. But other than that, I mean, he really nailed the presentation of it.
Yeah, there's certainly moments, even with certain characters, whether their hair looks a little weird or an expression clearly wasn't, designed or programmed, whatever, perfectly. Yes, there's certainly video gamey moments, but overall, even their facial expressions and their eyes and fear and all that kind of stuff, it was very well done. So
Mhm.
I liked the way it looked a lot. I think visually, it's right up there with, to me, some of the best looking games that I've ever played. Of course, you can do that when you've got such a cinematic experience that you're controlling pretty much every camera angle, every shot. You don't have the opportunity to go and take cover and fire at enemies. It doesn't operate like that. It's not that kind of game. It's not an open world game, although there are sections in the city, especially where you feel like you probably could go anywhere, but of course you can't. It limits where you can go. So it's very linear, and I think that allows them to really focus in on incredibly tight and sharp graphics. So I think the visuals are great. One of the things that happens when you finish that first chapter, and so this is no spoiler, it's been in millions of trailers. The first chapter with Connor has to do with a deviant android who is holding this little girl hostage on the very top floor of this apartment building, and he's got a gun to her head, and he's standing on the edge of a building, and is basically threatening to throw himself and her off the edge of this building. So you're trying to figure out how to diffuse the situation and calm this android down and save this little girl's life. And things could play out in a whole bunch of different ways. And I didn't realize how many different ways until I finished the level. I got the ending of the chapter for me, which included saving the little girl, and Android didn't make it. The bad Android didn't make it. That's how my scenario ended. But then at the end of each chapter, it shows you like this bracket that kind of unfolds, and you can see all the different choices you made. And sometimes you successfully did a whole bunch of investigations, so that all fills in blue. But all the stuff that's still blank with a little orange padlock on it means you didn't do this part yet. And as it unfolded, I saw all the paths that I missed. I was like, holy cow, I could replay this game like 5 times and still not see every possibility. Or each chapter 5 times. A few of them are a little bit more linear, where really your only options are to either talk to a character off on the side or not. But most of them have full-on major decisions to make, and they'll play out very differently. And just like you said before, you never know who's going to survive. The way each character's story ends could be very different. Like for me, I won't say which ones, but 2 out of my 3 main characters survived, and I still felt really good because of the way one of the characters went out was really cool and very movie-like. Kind of all made sense, and it sets it up at the very end. It sets it up for a story that I want to keep experiencing. I want to see what happens next. I feel like they're setting up a whole lot of additional stuff there, because you do have options in how to handle situations, but I think the overarching story of androids and humans coming into conflict, that part happens no matter what. It's just how does it play out? Who plays the key role in that? Does it actually get violent or not? All those different components are controlled by the player, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah,
I think that's really neat.
That's what I liked about the game, and I was going to say the same thing, is that as you're playing through it, and as you finish like a chapter or whatever, the amount of choices. Like, I know in Heavy Rain, you could dictate and you could change the game. Like I said, you could literally kill a main character, which would obviously
That's nuts, man. I got to play this game. I still haven't played it yet.
which would dictate, how it ends. But I can't remember Heavy Rain having that many significant changes that it would change like the game as drastic as he did with Detroit Become Human.
Yep.
And I'm a person that did not like Beyond Two Souls. I thought it was trash. So I'm not like a David Cage fanboy. I did like Heavy Rain a lot. I thought Beyond Two Souls is trash. I didn't play Indigo Prophecy. But this game, and especially with me being in a gaming rut, it hooked me right away. And like I said, maybe it was just because it wasn't a thinking game. Yeah, you got to think as far as what choices do I want to make, but there's such a rushed choice. It's just a really linear narrative experience.
It is.
It's like perfect for me right now. And
I felt like I binge watched a cool Netflix sci-fi show, to be honest with you. That's what
Well,
it
and
felt like.
That's why I kept playing it. I was like, I want to know. And you guys were posting, you and Thomas and all of you were posting like, finished the game, loved it, blah blah. And I was like, well, this is kind of like somebody going on our group and saying, I just finished season 3 of Into the Badlands. I loved it, blah blah blah. That would make me want to go see it.
Right.
So that's kind of how I felt about Detroit. I was like, well, I got the game because
Yeah.
I played it and I made a few jokes, but I was actually serious on my first post. I was making fun of the game because I'm like, this is a stupid cleaning simulator. Like the first 2 chapters you do,
Yeah.
you're just cleaning people's houses. And I'm like,
Yep.
this is so dumb.
Yeah, in the one chapter, like I said, you're a caretaker for an old man, so you're giving him his medicine, you're feeding him his breakfast, you're going to look at a book while you wait for him to finish eating his breakfast, you're going to pick up paint for him, and it's like, oh, okay, where are they going with this? I was very skeptical as well. I was like, this looks pretty, but boy, if this is just kind of like a weird Sims type of a game, no thanks. And then the other character, you're picking up beer bottles and pizza boxes and tidying up their room. And yeah, you can investigate the area, and it helps you as that sequence plays out because you learn about things and the location of things. But that being said, it felt very slow, and I am so glad that the build-up paid off for not only that sequence, but it could become super epic. I will describe it that way as well. I felt like it was a very epic story with some great character arcs. Some of it is very on the nose, very Sci-Fi Channel original movie. Okay, there are certain moments that people are going to scoff at, and I think that's what some of the critics are saying about it, is that it's so cheesy. Okay, there are a few cheesy moments, but overall, I thought the performances and writing were good enough that I never once sat there and laughed about how bad it was. I thought it was good. I thought it was really
Yeah.
good.
I never felt like, okay, this is really stupid. There was a couple times where I was like, okay,
Yeah,
this is David Cage. Like, how are you not self-aware that this is pretty bad?
yeah.
But it was nothing that took away from the game. I do want to say, as we wind down talking about it, um, my issue, and I know you and Thomas both replied back to me, but I don't think you fully understood what I meant. My issue was with the ending, and it wasn't the ending I got. It was the ending of the game, the way it ended out, not my choices on how it ended out. I'm saying just the direction that David Cage took the story wasn't what I wanted. I think he was trying to make it this bigger. I mean, you kind of already talked about it. This bigger story of a war between androids and humans. Whereas what I was enjoying in the beginning of the game is the mystery of why are these androids going deviant? Which, by the way, I don't even know if that was answered, if I just missed it. But I'm like, man, we're doing all these investigations to figure out why these androids are going deviant, and then it kind of skipped to androids versus humans, and I totally missed why they were going deviant.
So it is actually explained depending on certain paths you choose in very specific chapters.
Okay.
I'm trying to be vague. I know we've had some little mild spoilers here and there. Like, yes, maybe you weren't aware that it's going to be androids versus humans. So sorry if that's it's not really a spoiler. There's so much to it. That's not a reveal or anything like that. You can sense that building up by the third chapter of the game. But that being said, I don't want to give too much away, but I will say there's a scene involving a swimming pool with a couple of identical androids hanging out in it.
Mm-hmm.
That is one, and there's a few others too where you can actually learn more about the why behind it.
Well, and you know what it was, and I was reading an article. And I know what scene you're talking about, and I won't spoil it, but that a certain character says you can ask one question. Apparently, the question I asked was not the right question because he even told me he's like, you could have done better than that, and he answered it, but his answer was stupid. So it wasn't. It didn't really explain what I wanted to know.
Well, not only that, you have to do something pretty crazy to even earn that question.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I know we're kind of being vague, but we don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't played it. But I think there's some explanation in there.
I probably missed it,
but I don't think it's clear. They could have made that more clear for sure. But it is one of those things that for any of us who grew up watching stuff like Terminator movies, you know, we're always just waiting for them to develop artificial intelligence to the point where the machine becomes smarter than the creator and then takes over. You know, takes over our nuclear missiles, creates soldiers, and destroys us all. And this is a very interesting take on that and that type of sci-fi trope. And I think the way they've personalized it, and they made me really care about these stupid digital androids up on the screen. I really cared about each of their stories a lot, and I was really curious where it all would play out. And I don't know, I just thought it was so good. I haven't enjoyed a narrative kind of story based game like that. I probably didn't feel the magic of a game like that story wise since the first season of Walking Dead by Telltale, when I just kind of felt that magic of, wow, I can really choose what to say, what to do, and it impacts who lives and who dies and what happens next. And then you can see the percentages afterwards of who did what. Same thing with this. You can see the global and then your friends list percentages of who made the choices you did. So yeah, I think it just has that magic factor for me personally on a story level. And even, I'll be honest, some of the big action scenes, the big fight scenes, some of the quick time event stuff can be annoying, but it's still impressive. They really put together some cool action scenes. And like Derek said, if you don't do it very well, the game moves on. I don't know that you can kill a character off, but I didn't do super well with my reaction time in one of the final type battles. And I think a very important side character, I had to choose their fate in order for me to keep surviving or not. And it was very interesting the way that played out. Trying to stay vague here. But I think that was because I got shot too many times because I kept hitting the wrong button to dodge or whatever. So that was my fault. Anyway, I love it. I think it's one of the best narrative-driven games I've played. It's one of my favorite games this year. It's also very fresh in my mind, so I like it a lot. We'll see if it sticks with me throughout the rest of the year. I think it will.
I mean, I would definitely say I still like Far Cry 5 more. And then I'd like to get through God of War. I have a feeling since I'm kind of coming out of my anti-gaming funk that I'll probably end up loving God of War more. I like this a lot. I gave it 4 Miss Piggies out of 5, but overall, I didn't like it definitely as much as some of you other guys. The way y'all were loving it, I just think it's definitely worth a playthrough. If you're the type that's like, I don't like spending $60 on a game unless it's amazing. Like I only buy 2 games a year. No, you don't need to buy this.
Yeah,
one.
hold off on this. This will be on sale.
Yeah,
This-
this one will definitely drop to $40. I'm not talking regular price, but like a sale price of 40 probably in a month.
You know what? And if you're really patient, if you're like, yeah, I've got enough of my backlog, this sounds like a good holiday game. I'll bet you that it's going to get down to the 20 range by holidays. I would bet.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So,
But I have no regrets buying it. I mean, you and I basically split the cost. I own it, but I paid 40. You paid 20. I think it was definitely worth the 40 I paid. I have no problem paying that day one for it. So
yeah. So one last question for you, and I'm still going back and forth whether or not I want to do this with a game like this with so many paths. Now that I've completed it, and here's my story in Detroit. Here's how, as far as I know, everything played out. This is what it looks like. I am not sure, and I'm curious what you think about this. I'm not sure if I want to go back and just to see the other possibilities. I know there's so many, and things could play out very differently. I'm not sure how much I want to dig back into it, or if I want to leave it as it is, as a great one-time through thing.
well, I think the way mine ended was exactly how I wanted to end, and that was without spoiling anything. My favorite character, which I said Connor, I got to do what I wanted to do with him. But overall, I know from reading a certain article I just read that basically I missed out on a lot of like a totally different ending. So would I like to experience that? Yeah. Would I replay this game? Maybe. It would be way down the road because for me, these games are like fun to play through once. It's like The Walking Dead or even like the Telltale Batman or anything like that. I always enjoy those games, but I never go back to them. And the
Yeah,
reason
play
why
them through once. I'm the same way.
yeah, they're not fun to play. They're fun to experience once.
Yeah.
Like I told you, replay The Witcher 3. Well, if The Witcher 3 was just an interactive movie, I wouldn't tell you to replay it. I tell you to replay it because the entire experience is fun. Like to actually play the game is fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wouldn't say Detroit Become Human is fun to play. I would say out of all of David Cage's games, it's definitely the most interesting gameplay wise. It gives you plenty of scenarios that are different than just hold down R2, or something like that. Like he gives you some stuff that's more interesting, like not only the investigation, but even some of the action scenes. Or there's a certain character that has to do some athletic mobility things, and you get to pick how he does these things. So you actually go through choosing, well, do I go this way and then jump to this and then go to here? And nope, that won't work. So let me go find another path, and then you select it, and then he does it.
Yep. Yeah, I'm leaning against playing it through again, at least in the near future. I'm with you. I might play it again later on down the road, but for right now, I'm ready to move on to other stuff. I'll tell you though, we'll wait and see what the new Tomb Raider and Spider-Man and Red Dead 2 can pull together. But for me personally, we're almost at the halfway point of the year.
Yeah.
This is my favorite video game story so far, and I think it's the best looking game of the year so far for me personally. As much as I love God of War and I love that story, I think this is right now this one has the edge on story, although God of War has the edge on basically everything else.
Okay.
So
I'll have to see when I actually play through God of War story to see if I like it.
And poor Far Cry 5, that thing's going to finish like second or third place probably for me in just about every category because I really liked it a lot. But what we'll do is probably after E3 has settled down a bit and we get to that first week of July, we'll take a look back at the first half of the year and see where things stand. So
yeah.
All right, man. Well, thanks for taking time tonight. I appreciate it. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in yet again. And we will talk to you as E3 news is rolling out next week.
Who is your daddy? I am your father.
You fathers will understand.
My father taught me many things here.
I got an idea. How about you all sit there quietly while I make dad noises?
By the way, seeing as you and Sasan are so close now, like really close, how do you say his last name?
I have to have it in front of me.
I'm gonna go with Ben Bahani.
Ben behind me.
Bend behind me. No, that's not what I
That's
said.
how I heard it.
That's not what I said.
Sasan Ben behind me.